What's going on? It's your boy, That Guy Health, ANBF Men's Physique Pro, Health Up Nutrition, sponsored athlete of one of the best fat burning pre-workouts that you can get. 30 servings, $29.99. Make sure you head over to the website, get yourself a container, and start the gains. Today and every other day for this series, I'm up here at Atlanta Fearless CrossFit. Okay, we're going to be filming here every series for this. So don't forget, it's a 3-part series. They're all going to start off like this. And do not forget, subscribe, like, and comment. Be involved with the community. We all are headed to the same destination. We all want gains. We all want to get progress, and we all want to achieve goals. And I'm here to help you do that. So let's get started into this segment so you can get your gains up. What's going on? It is week 3. It is time for us to move into the weighted exercises to improve your posterior or overall delt gains. Now, if this is your first time seeing this video, you're a little bit behind, you're too far ahead. I need you to move back into week 1, okay? Week 1, we did no resistance, no weights. Why? Because we worked on form and technique. And like any other exercise, I don't care if you got weights, no resistance, whatever the case is, you need to warm up, stretch first. So if you need to, get some stretches in while I'm talking. Go ahead and get those static holds, get that moving, get that blood pumping into that muscle group. We don't want to get injured here, okay? So like I said, we're in week 3. We're graduating. We're going to move up to weights, okay? So here, in this exercise, we're going to be utilizing dumbbell weights to go ahead and exercise the posterior delt. And if you haven't known before, if you go back to week 1, you'll see that I emphasize the fact that the front delt, lateral delt, usually get impacted no matter what kind of upper body exercise you do. It's the posterior delt that gets left out, okay? So we stepped up to resistance bands in week 2 and showed you forms with that. Now remember, we're carrying over all the same practices from week 1. That's why it's important that you watch week 1 so that you get those practices and you carry them over to the resistance bands all the way to the weights. Now, when we're using dumbbell weights, you have to keep in mind, when we didn't have anything in our hand, we were at liberty and lightly taxed, if at all any, on hand position, okay? And what I mean by taxed is running the risk of injury if you're not exactly in the correct position. That is the beauty of having and practicing form with no resistance or no weights. If you happen to be in the wrong position, you run a lower risk of injuring yourself. Now, as we increase and start adding resistance, you up that possibility of injuring yourself. And when we get to free weights, you definitely run into the territory of injuring yourself if your form is not correct or you don't know how to correct on the fly because you have not been practicing what we practiced in week 1. I don't want you to injure yourself. I want you to improve yourself, okay? That is the primary goal. So like I said, we're going to move up to dumbbell weights today. The important thing is leave the macho shit at the door. Check your ego. Okay, we've already proven that with no weights and no resistance, you can engage that muscle group to the point of burning it. Basically, feeling the fact that it has so much concentration in it that it's getting work in it, okay? Then we moved up to resistance bands, and you saw me pretty much go to the point of failure with resistance bands. Weights, gonna do the same thing, but we don't need an excessive amount of weight here. I want you to remember, and I want you to know, because I can't say remember, I didn't cover this in the first 2, all right, but it's important for me to cover it in this. The delt is not one big muscle group. The delt is 3 individual heads tied together to make that full delt look, and that's what we're trying to develop. You have the frontal delt, the lateral delt, and then you have the rear delt. Now, I know that you guys are accustomed to somebody using these. He is an awesome, definite tool. I've watched him before, definitely placed, but I'm not going to mark up myself. I got tattoos as it is, and I don't feel like it's that important. If you want to see somebody draw on themselves, by all means, go check him out. But listen, we don't draw on ourselves here, okay? So we're going to work right here, this posterior delt, using these weights. They're 3 individually smaller muscles, so we don't need an excessive amount of weight, okay? Especially right now, we're trying to get into the good practice of just engaging and building and establishing that mind-to-muscle connection. So right here, I have 10-pound weights. If I had 8, I might possibly use 8 for this routine and exercise. Now, I've used 25s and 20s, but that's, of course, because I have the form. I'm doing a particular exercise. That will be something for a different segment. Right here, we're going to use 10s. Definitely, if you have 5s, get them. If you have 8s, get them. Do not be macho. Do not let your ego be destroyed by less weight. Let me tell you, dropping the weight can increase your gains. So let's do this. Let's get started full on front view like we did in week 2 with the resistance bands, so you can see how I'm going to use in the range of motion these free weights. Now I have a second one down here. I'm going to move that camera over. We're going to get a full on front view and we're going to go from there. Let's get started. Okay, so right here I have both of my 10-pound dumbbells right here to the left and right of me. You might not be able to see them, but you'll see them as soon as I get into the position. Now remember, we're carrying over the same practices, so the first thing we want to do is find the proper form for us, getting in that general form, then critiquing from there. Remember that imaginary plane that you're going to try to keep your motion on, to try to keep everything evened out, not going too far back, too far forward. We want to be in that range where we can maximize increasing our concentration on that posterior delt. The next thing we're going to do is when I start these reps, just like anything before, all the way from nothing in our hands to resistance bands to now, is we're going to work on range of motion, keeping that posterior delt engaged. Now remember, my first few reps are going to be full range, okay? Because I'm going to make sure I don't have any type of clicking, any type of impingement going on, that I've warmed up properly. That will help me do that. Then I'm automatically going to kick into the partials. Now remember, the partials are that start and end point where I keep that posterior delt fully engaged. I don't want to come too far down and disengage that posterior delt right away. I want to keep it engaged and try to go to the point of failure. You'll feel it burn. Now, if you're doing this routine or exercise and you feel more penetration in your front delt or your lateral delt, that's not where we want it. Remember, the front delt and the lateral delt get a lot of impact from all types of other exercises. Bench press, even curls, pull-ups, chin-ups, okay? I'm not saying don't work on those individually, but I'm saying right now we are working on a portion of the delt that lacks the most. And 9 times out of 10, people lack posterior delt improvements. Even myself, it's something that I had to work on, and that's why I'm sharing it with you. I want to help you increase your gains. So let's jump into this. I'm going to grab my weights, all right? I'm going to use a full grip. I'm not going to use a false grip. One, because on here, it's more taxing. Remember, taxing. We want to decrease injury. If I use a false grip and I don't know, let's say I happen to have a certain pain or I reach failure, my hands open up, I run the risk of dropping that dumbbell on my foot I don't want. So I'm going to use a closed grip on this one just to practice safety, all right? So let's grab those dumbbells. I'm going to find my plane right here. I'm going to get into that position. I've got my full grip on and I'm going to start full range of motion, okay? I'm not going to be looking at the camera because that's not a neutral position for me. It's very uncomfortable. My head's going to be down, but hopefully you hear me, all right? So boom, I'm in my position. I got my plane. Remember my end point being my elbows focused. I feel pretty comfortable right there. So now I'm going to move into partials. Boom. Keeping that rear delt engaged. Oh. Oh yeah, even with these 10 pounds, and there it is. Posterior delt just fully showed up to the party on these partials. And my form is starting to teeter, and I can feel it's trying to drop out. I'm gonna do, there it is. And yeah, I dropped those weights, okay? Because it kicked in. I felt that posterior delt. Now I'm going to tell you the difference is this. I definitely feel the burn up top, and this is definitely a benefit to resistance bands, okay? Because as you start to come down with the free weights, you don't have as much resistance. Now I try to move them down in such a way where I'm trying to resist the drop. But resistance bands, you don't have that option. They're pulling you down. As well as when you go up, you're adding resistance. Perfect ideal situation. That's why I love using resistance bands. But using free weights helps you get a little bit more size as you go up in weight. But right now, we're practicing with like moderate weight, 10, 8 pounds. We can get that focus in there. And I'll use heavier weight, like on some days, try to increase that size. Only thing when you start upping the weight, what you do is you will start recruiting the work from other muscle groups, which in turn takes concentration away from the posterior delt. So we're sacrificing some of that intensity to get the size, but if you drop that weight or use resistance bands, you can focus more. So what that means is this: use a combination of the two. Do some heavy weighted, do some lightweight, do some resistance bands. It's all good. Penetrating that muscle group with multiple type of techniques is what's going to help you grow, okay? We're not confusing the muscle. We're using different techniques to improve our gains. There's nothing wrong with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that camera in here so that you can see the posterior delt utilizing the dumbbell weights. And hey, you've got 3 weeks, 3 different techniques to help you increase your posterior delt or overall delt look, period. Let's bring that camera on in. All right, so got my free weights. What we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to face this way instead of full on so that you can view that posterior delt, so that you could possibly see that muscle being engaged and possibly have an idea of what you should be looking for. Using a mirror is not vain. Mirrors are placed there so that you can see what is actually happening. There's a difference from what you think is happening and what is actually happening. And mirrors are another tool for you to go ahead and perfect your form, perfect the rotation, perfect the range of motion, so that you know that feeling, therefore making that mental mind connection to that muscle group, to that range of motion, so that you can increase your gains. So I'm going to face this way. We're going to get some more reps in on this posterior delt using the dumbbells. I'm using 10 pounds again. And you're going to be able to see it. I'm going to pretty much go to the point where I'm pretty much going to go to failure using partials. And then at the end of partials, I'll try to do a couple of full range just to get that extra in there. Because using that full range, what it does is when I get to the bottom, technically the posterior delt kicks out, which is a moment of rest. And then I'll kick it back in, okay? But once you've done so many partials of failure, you're just further building on that, all right? So let's get started. All right, so there you go. You can see it. I'm going to get my line, put my positioning, and let's go. I'm going to do a couple of full range, make sure I don't have any type of problems, no pinches, no hinges. I feel good. Let's go to the partials. We're going to keep it engaged. Remember, I'm focused, that my elbows are my end point. Therefore, I get that nice swing out and engage that posterior delt instead of the biceps. Oh yeah. My hands are just hangers. I feel it already. Hold. 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 Oh, there's that failure. Whoa. Oh, whew. I hope you saw it, because I definitely felt it. So, all right, there goes a full set. Now, in that set, you saw that I went from doing partials, full range, to holds. The reason why I do that is this. If I can find a way to further keep going in the rep in order to increase that concentration and that load on that muscle group, that's what I'm going to do. There are no rules when it comes to trying to push yourself further, except for the rule is don't injure yourself. But what I'm saying is do what you can within form to go further, to further maximize that gain. So I went from doing partials to doing full reps to holds just to further pound that posterior delt. So listen, that's it right there. Let's go ahead and exit this thing out. I got some information for you. And then guess what? You have 3 weeks, 3 different techniques on how to improve your delt gains. Thanks for joining That Guy Health, ANBF Men's Physique Pro, Health Up Nutrition, sponsored athlete, one of the best fat burning pre-workouts that you can get. 30 servings, $29.99, people. Go over to the website, healthupnutrition.com, grab you a container, try it out. I even use it sometimes for a coffee supplement. Instead of using coffee, I drink coffee black, no sugar, no creamer. This is definitely a good change up. You get a little bit more benefits to help you towards your gains. So listen, that it concludes the 3-week program on how to improve your delt gains. Here in this segment, or all segments, we focus primarily on the posterior delt, okay, which is one of the delt muscles, which is the delt muscle that gets the least amount of work and the least amount of tension, and it shouldn't. If you want a well-rounded delt, you have to work on the posterior delt as well as the lateral and the front delt. So listen, that was 3 weeks, 3 segments on how to build the posterior delt. We're not going to leave the other 2 out because they get majority of the food when we work out. I'm going to do 3 segments each on the lateral and the front delt to help you get gains to build a well-rounded delt. Why? Because I'm working on it. You should be working on it. Sharing is caring. I care about your gains, okay? Thanks for joining me. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, click notifications so you can get updated when I post material. It's good material. I hope to see you next time. Thanks for joining me. Start with week 1. Work your way up to week 3, which is free weights. And don't forget, resistance bands are not for punks. I love them. You'll grow to love them too. Peace.